Hello, everyone. We are live. This is Chala, CEO and founder of the Repositioning Expert, and I am here with another Tuesday Tea Time with Chala. My protein and I still drinking it. A little bit watery right now. It's gone down to the bottom. So, what are we talking about? Just recently, I was asked by a client to do this presentation called What Agencies Miss in Prospect Pitching, meaning when everybody gathers together and there's a very exciting account and they're going in and, they're going to just win them over, make them fall in love with them and walk away with, potentially hundreds of thousands of dollars of business. At least that's how it was when I worked for the big companies like Pepsi, Pizza Hut, Frito Lay. We worked with the giants and I worked in multinational regions. So I worked in North America, I worked in the European region, I worked in the Middle East. Like it's just everywhere, right? So I worked with some of the biggest agencies like Saatchi and Saatchi, Leo Burnett, Thompson. I can't remember what it was called, but we had little ones, we had local ones, we had global ones that we had to work with. So if I tell you I know agency pitches, trust me, I've seen enough of them. I was pitched to death while I was there for 18 years. So now I'm on the other side of the table. Agencies, actually, some of my clients are ad agencies or creative agencies, and they hire me to help them get more clients. So this was the topic. I did town halls for them every quarter, and this is what one of the topics was. So, and if you're an ad agency or if you're just a business owner, this is great for you because these are some of the mistakes that you shouldn't be doing, because ad agencies, they present all the time, like they're trying to get business, and hopefully you're the same way. And specifically, if you're presenting to like buyers or a corporation, this is going to be really good for you to hear. So number one is the big mistake that agencies used to make is they didn't used to tailor their PowerPoint presentation to an industry, to my industry. So they would do generic industry presentations. Industry agnostic, sometimes I've heard it called. And the reason why that's a miss is because it makes me think that you don't have enough knowledge, expertise, and specialty in my industry, and especially in big corporate. There's all sorts of research that says that buyers are trying to minimize the impact of a wrong decision on their career, on the company's bottom line, but mostly their career. And in fact, I present a statistic around how about, I think it's 49% of them refuse to work with a new vendor that they want to because of the fear of losing their job, losing face. Just they won't do it. It's just they need to have that trust. So one of the ways to build that trust is not to present a generic industry, meaning if I was in the food and beverage industry and somebody came in and presented all this work that they had done in the entertainment industry or in the oil and gas industry, it meant nothing to me. So I want you, just as my agency, to know my industry really well inside and out. And a lot of pushback from clients is that, what if they want exclusivity? So what if you're working with one giant? Like I used to work at Pepsi. So if you were working with Coke, obviously you had your own agency. But a lot of the ad agencies that I work with are not that big. They're not the Leo Burnett's. They're not the Saatchis of the world. So if you're smaller, like my clients, you can definitely afford to have more than one client in that same industry. If they ask you to do an exclusivity deal, you can have different teams work on it. You can put that into your clause. You can have people who are blind if you're like an operation in terms of sorting or mailing or anything that's on premise. You can have different teams sort that out. So there's ways to handle it. So anyway, please don't be generic. Number two, mistake that ad agencies make when they're pitching the client is not knowing who will be in the room ahead. Now, this is not just an agency mistake. It's all my clients where they don't know who ahead will be in the room in terms of the decision maker. Because when you're in a pitch situation, you need to know, first of all, whether the true decision makers are in the room and who else is going to be in the room. Typically, there's the people who are going to be using the service, and there's going to be the people who are actually making the decision. And hopefully, there'll also be the financial decision makers in the room. So you need to know what each player's role is, and you need to know what they can ask and what you may want to ask from them in your presentation, and what you need to speak to in the presentation that will appeal to their expertise. Okay, so not knowing, just going blind, just showing up and throwing up is not something that I help my clients do. Number 3 is doing just a capability presentation without the selling piece. So if you just, again, show up and talk about you, and everything that you're great, this is what you can do for them even, but there's no selling, you're not really going down, and you don't even know sometimes how to do the selling. There are ways, and in fact, I'm going to be doing a live masterclass in a week. Is it a week? It's on the 27th and 28th. And it's called Never Ask for the Sale. So you never actually have to ask for the sale if you're doing and saying all the right things all along. And especially if you're doing a capability presentation without doing those right things all along, you're missing the opportunity. And I'm actually going to give you, the answer to some of the things that you should be asking them, and you should be talking about, which will lead them to a sales conversation, which is critical, because if you don't have the right people in the room, you can't really actually have a sales conversation with them anyway, because how are they going to make that decision? They're going to have to go and become your sales rep, which you never want anyone to sell you and your services or whatever your company represents, because you're depending on their sales abilities, and you don't want to do that. Okay, number 4 thing that agencies get wrong is not finding out the company that you're the prospect's pain properly. So they'll often do just a casual Google search, or they'll do some guessing. They'll maybe guess based on somebody they worked with in the past. But the proper way to do it is, one is to do secondary research, which is not just a Google research, but it's actually going and speaking to the prospect customers, if you can get them, people in the similar industry who have similar customers, vendors of theirs, so that you get to know what are some of the industry issues and what are some of the company issues. And if you can do that while people trust you, hopefully you'll do that with your networks, and or meet them at industry functions where you can ask them these things casually, hopefully. And then the other is actually asking the prospect for a proper brief with actual driven questions by you, so that they feed you the information. And there's definitely ways of doing that. We actually pre-guess some of the questions in some of the pains, and then we ask them as a question to pick one of the pain points, so that we've done the heavy lifting, we've done the strategic work, and then they add to that, or they say, oh, no, that's not at all. We have a completely different issue here. And sometimes it's really different than what the rest of the industry is going through, and or has a different focus. So without going in with this kind of pain information, you are going in blind. You might as well not go. You might as well just send it in, just email it in, and no one's going to read it anyway, right? If you're wasting everybody's time and you haven't even thought about what their pain is, and all you're doing is just talking about how many offices you have and what other work you've done, and has no context to their actual pain that is on their number 1 radar, you have just wasted my time. And I cannot tell you over 18 years how many times that happened. So unfortunately. Okay. And I don't know if I talk about this later, but one of the key things about talking about pain is you have to source it. You have to tell them, you can't guess it, because I've had really big agencies come in and just guess it and build entire decks of recommendations based on the wrong pain that they've guessed. And it was such a waste of their time. They never even asked us, even during the presentation, whether this was a valid pain or not. And it was not. It was such a miss. They had just taken this guess at it, and we had such a much bigger problem. And in fact, we got our backs up because we didn't think that product line was an issue at all. So you have to source your assumptions about where you think the pain is and where that data is coming from. And you can source anecdotal interviews, where, with who, how, date, how many. So that's the key part about guessing the pain, right? You never guess it, and I never let any of my clients guess it. Okay. Number 5 is, and this is in no specific order, is not asking the prospect during this pitch meeting to quantify the pain and the consequences of not solving this pain. Because if they don't know how much it's costing them to have this issue that you're going to come in and solve for them, then how can you actually sell your services? How can you build urgency? How can you put a dollar amount to what you're selling? And how can they comparatively figure out which one, what is the right solution and how much is the right solution? What's the scope of the solution if they don't know the scope of the problem? And in corporations, the language is dollars, right? If there's a dollar amount attached to that pain. So if you're not asking them to quantify that during the pitch and the ensuing conversation afterwards, you're not going to get a sale. Number 6 is talking only about themselves. Like when the agency talks only about themselves and they are not talking directly about the company that they're presenting to, it is a huge miss. I always tell the story of when I almost gave birth when I was 40 weeks pregnant. However pregnant I was like giant. And I was so stressed out, and I had dragged my heavily pregnant body to this out of town supplier who had this really great technology. And they kept me there for 3 hours. They had almost every executive present to me because I used to be represent a brand that was huge. And they didn't mention my name. I forget my name, but my brand's name not once in the presentation. Everything they talked about was themselves. And I often call this selfish marketing. Like, do not talk about only yourselves. Talk about yourselves only within the context of a problem, how you solve the problem, when you solve the problem. So in the case study, in the classical case study, when you're presenting the case study, what was the client problem? What did you do to solve it? What's special about your technology and features and differentiator and unique process that's so different that you were able to solve it? And then go next to why that's important and what the results were. I don't want to hear about you any other way. I hope that's clear. Put it all in the supporting deck. Like, I don't care how many offices you have. I don't care how many people you work with. That's all like secondary to, can you solve my pain? And have you done it before? And what were the results? Okay, number 7 is not baking in your special process, technologies, partnerships, their objections and how you overcame them, and numerical success and ROI numbers into these case studies. If you don't bake in, and there's a way to do all of that, if you're not baking these into your stories, you are missing out big time. Because people no longer retain information, they retain stories. Stories create emotion. Emotion is what people decide to buy or sell on, buy on. Okay, so remember to incorporate them. Number 8 is not making the entire PowerPoint presentation about case studies. The whole thing from start to finish, from the moment you open your mouth, should be about stories, success stories of people who are in exactly the same pain as they were. Number 9 is talking and presenting too long versus the consultative conversation that follows your very short capability presentation. Because the true selling is done in those 5 questions. So I'm going to give you the 5 questions. One is, what is the vision with respect to what they have you there for? What is the obstacle to that vision? Number 3 is the dollar amount that it's going to cost them if they can't get over that obstacle to get to the vision. And then you present your 3 to 5 step process, and then you ask them, would this help? So if you are talking and presenting, you keep that portion too long, you will never get to the asking question. And if you're not asking questions, you're not selling, right? And number 10 is leaving without a next date. This is a huge one. A lot of my clients say that this was the game changer for them in what they changed after working with me is, even if the prospect is saying, we don't know when the next date is, you get a date to get a date and say, can I call you Monday at noon to get that date from you? And if they're serious and they're not blowing you off, they will take you up on that offer. If not, you can just go on chasing and chasing and chasing. And it's just, amazing, huge deals are lost because of time. So if you're on top of it, the most certain time to get a next appointment is when they're in the excitement in that room, when you're doing that presentation and they're talking to you. So I want to remind you to register for Never Ask for the Sale. It's my 90 minutes. It's 2 days, 90 minutes. It's the first day is 90 minutes. The second day is 60 minutes. And it's a free online masterclass. It's called Never Ask for the Sale, because the power of persuasion and clarity is so powerful, is so big, that you never have to ask for the sale. And I'm going to teach you how to do that. I'm going to teach you how to position yourself so that you never have to ask for the sale. It's on the January, or it's February 27th and 28th. It's at 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific. And the second day is the bonus day, which is 60 days, same time. And we're going to give you some free information, free advice. So register on repositioner.com/neverask, all one word. And then, once you're on, you're going to get your workbook. You're going to join the Facebook group, which is called the Never Ask for the Sale group. And it's a bit controversial, but I am really having fun with this topic. We had such great success with the one-liner marketing launch. We've done it 3 times now, and I just wanted something fresh. And I always come up with these controversial topics because I don't think like everybody does, especially in this industry. So I just I find a little bit of a different background, having heard like all these pitches over and over and over. So that coupled with my marketing background and training, that coupled with my coach background and training, I just feel that I have a unique perspective on some of these things. So I'm really happy to share it with you. And I will see you next Tuesday at the next Tuesday tea time. Take care.